Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Judith Patterson. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Texas, and today I'm going to show you 3 cards, how to make them, um, using the stamps from Light the Candles kits. These kits are awesome. Different kits have different projects. Some are cards, some are home decor, some are like scrapbooking things. There's all kinds of different kits that Stampin' Up! Offers. And in the kit, you get everything that you need to make those projects. So if there's stamps involved, which some kits don't even require stamping, they're just putting the projects together. Um, other kits do have they come with a stamp set, so you get a little stamp set. Everything comes in a box like this. I was going to open this and show it to you, but it's sealed with plastic and the label is actually on the plastic or the cellophane or whatever this stuff is. So I decided I better not open it because then I won't know well, I guess I could open it and see. Anyway, we're going to just not open it. So, but I have one that I've already opened. I've already put together. I have some of the pieces left, so I'll show you those. So you get a stamp set, and I'll show you more of this in just a minute. Let's see if you can see better on that side, maybe. And you get a block. So you get a clear block. This one is not exactly like our blocks that we sell, but still very handy. It's thinner. And of course it's clear so you can see through it. You get a little square ink pad. It's really small. I'm not going to be using that today. I'm going to be using my own adhesives that I purchased from Stampin' Up. But you do get adhesives. You get, and I don't know why I said that. I am using my own adhesives, but I'm also using my own ink pads, and I'm using different ink pads that came in the kit. So in this kit, you get a Coastal Cabana classic stamping pad that's like an inch or so big, maybe a little bit bigger than an inch. And you get enough supplies to make 3 cards with their coordinating envelopes. And look, y'all, I love this. The inside of the envelope is fancied up too. So that's a lot of fun. So you have 4 each of these designs that you can make. And again, the inside of the envelope matches your card. It's so fun. So I love the cards that come in the kits, but then I also like to be able to use the stamps that come in the kits to make other projects. So today I'm going to be using the Masterfully made 12 by 12 designer series paper. And then colors that coordinate with that. I'll be using the stamp set that came with this kit. Stylish Shapes dies. I'm going to use one of the circle dies. I'm also going to be using the Fluffiest Friends stamp set. This is an online exclusive. Love it. I don't want to stop using it, so I'm going to be using it. And then it also has coordinating dies. So I'm just using the little bunny, so I'm only using 1 die, but I love it. It makes things easy. If you don't have the dies, you can always fussy cut or even just stamp, and you'll see when we get to that card, but you can just stamp the bunny right there on the white cardstock. I think there's room for that. I'm also using the painted texture embossing folder for one of these cards. And of course, to color the bunny, you can use watercolor pencils or markers, whatever you have available. I'm going to be using Stampin' Blends. I haven't used them in a minute, and I'm wanting to color. So, and then rhinestones. I'm using rhinestones just to embellish things up, and some metallic woven ribbon on this first card. I'm not doing a class at home this week. I'm gonna, we've been traveling a lot, so I am going to skip this week, and in a couple of weeks, I will do another class at home for you guys. But in the meantime, I didn't want to not have a class at all, so I'm going to do this. I think these kits are really fun, and I don't think I show them enough to y'all and show you what all you can do with them. Because you're not just limited to the things that you get in the class. The kits are a great way to build up your supplies. So whether you're somebody that travels and you just want to craft, but you don't want a lot of stuff, or if you're new to stamping and on a budget or not, either way, it's a great way to just build up your stamp supplies. The sentiments in these are oftentimes my favorites. And there's a lot of different ways to use them. So I'm going to start by finding my Post-its. Ninja just snuck off my desk. She was over on her little bed there and decided she needed to go do something else. So I am just covering the birthday. And mostly I'm wanting to make sure I get this edge of it that's right next to the happy happy. I'm going to ink up happy happy, pull off that Post-it, and then on each of these first 4, the larger ones, I'm going to stamp happy happy kind of in the middle. So this first one, I don't know if y'all are going to be able to see my little Post-it note here, but the first one is Berry Burst. It's 2.5 inches by 3.25 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and recover up that end of the birthday over there. Ink it again. It's very important that you take that Post-it off between each time. Stamp it. This is a great way to use up scraps of cardstock. I don't know about you, but I hate throwing away my cardstock. So this is a good way to not have to do that. Okay, so inking it, stamping it. I'm not super worried about having it perfectly centered. I want to get it pretty straight, but just do your best. Okay, for this last one, I'm going to turn it around because I'm going to end up with ink all over me. Okay, there we go. So I can get this one inked a little bit better. And remember, when you have cardstock, oh, did y'all see that? I almost messed up and got ink everywhere. Okay. So remember, take that Post-it note off before you stamp, and that did so much better. Okay, so now I'm going to do the opposite, and I'm going to cover up the, actually first I'm going to clean my stamp. Okay, to clean my stamp, I just used a damp Simply Chamois to wipe it off. You can also just run it under the sink. Just make sure that you dry it on something that's not super linty, or just give it a minute. If it gets super wet, you don't want it to be wet while you're trying to ink and stamp. It'll distort your stamp. Okay, so I'm covering up happy happy, and this time I'm just inking up the birthday. Okay, so this is Berry Burst. It is 2.5 inches by 3/4 inch. I'm going to follow that with Crushed Curry, 2 inches by 3/4 inch. Lemon Lime Twist is 2.25 by 3/4 inch. So is Fresh Freesia, 2.25 by 3/4. And then Birthday is on 1 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch. I'm through with the ink for this card. So let's go ahead and put that over there. I'm going to start with this Pretty Peacock card base. And then a 4 by 5.25 piece of Masterfully made designer series paper. I love this designer series paper. It is absolutely gorgeous. There is a lot going on this paper. So sometimes it can be a little challenging to figure out what you want to do on it. That's not going to be overwhelming because there's already so much happening, and that's not going to detract from the gorgeous paper. Okay, so I'm going to take these now, and you can use glue. I love my liquid glue, or you can use Stampin' Seal, whatever it is that you like the best. And I'm just going to haphazardly put these on here, but I do want them to stay towards the left edge. And then one last one down at the bottom that says birthday. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to put on the back of this a glue dot, if I can find my glue dots that are there. Okay, so I'm going to have 2 glue dots to start with, and I want them 1/2 inch from this side edge. So I'm going to use my paper here. And by 1/2 inch, I'm doing it approximately 1/2 inch. I'm not going to eyeball it, but I am using my guidelines here as a little bit of a cheat. And then I'm going to take the end of my ribbon and put it attached to one of these. I'm going to wrap it around and attach it here on my ribbon scissors. I like to have a scissors for ribbon only and scissors for paper only. And then I have other scissors that they're old and they're not my super favorite that I use if I'm cutting something with adhesive on it, because I don't like getting adhesive all over my good scissors. Can y'all hear my washing machine going off in the background? It means I need to do laundry when I finish this video. Oops, I twisted the pink one. That is the sweet sorbet, but I think that's okay. It'll all work out. So if y'all watched my videos before, I don't like to guess at how much ribbon I'm going to need and then waste a whole bunch or not have enough. So I always leave it on the spool to tie my bows and do the things I need to do. And then I trim it once I have everything the way I want it. So I'm going to go ahead and just tie this bow, this double bow with both ribbons. A hard time grabbing what I need to grab and letting go of what I don't need. Okay, see, that time I didn't guess enough. So I'm going to make that, I want my ends to be a little bit longer. And I may have to open up another spool of ribbon because I seem to be running out of this pretty peacock. Yeah, that's going to be better. Okay. I'll just finagle with the ribbon a little bit till I get it like I want it. There we go. That looks good to me. So I'm just going to cut these ends off. And like I say, I wanted them a little long. And then I'm going to use Stampin' Dimensionals to put this on my card base. I'm going to put them on the ends of these ribbons just to help hold them down a little bit more. And there we go. So card number 1. And then if you would like to, I always like to add a little bit to the inside of my cards. So I think I'm going to say, today's your day, make a wish. So I'm just going to put those just like that. I'm going to use another block. You can reuse the same block. So if you have the kit and you haven't purchased a lot of blocks yet, I have quite a few just because I've been stamping for a really long time. And I like to have a block for everything. So I'm going to do that there. And then I think I'm going to take my paper snips I have this little piece of melon mambo here, so I'm just gonna cut a little bit right here. I'll cut a little bit off here. I'm making this up as I go, y'all. Hope it works. I think I'm gonna go ahead and cut some off the bottom. It's a little long. There we are. So I added a little adhesive. I'll put that right there. And then there's a small little kind of like a starburst stamp. I'm going to grab a tiny little A block and my crushed curry ink. And we have a candle. It's a crooked candle. I probably should have done it straight. I don't know why I went crooked with it. But there is that. So I'm going to go ahead and add adhesive and put it on the inside of our card. I like to put 4" by 5 1/4" pieces of basic white cardstock in almost all of my cards. So, and I make a lot of cards. So I usually take a pack of basic white cardstock and go ahead and pre-cut it. And I keep it in this little container here, ready to go to use on cards. Some I go ahead and leave 5 1/2 by 4 1/4". Just in case I need something bigger, or I can cut it up to use it for different scraps. But most I cut 4 inches by 5 1/4", so that I can just have them handy to grab to use inside my card. Just a little time-saving tip. For the envelope, I've decided what I'm going to do. I have not been doing this much lately, and I really like the way it looks. So I'm going to, and this paper is, like I said, it's gorgeous. So I want to use a lot of it. But, so what I'm going to do is I have this piece of designer series paper that matches this one. It's cut 2 1/4" by 6 inches. I have put my adhesive just here on the flap. And then I'm going to add this piece right up to the edge here. And then I'll trim around it. And isn't that pretty? And I guess if you wanted to get really technical with it, you could, or if you didn't want to fussy cut around the flap, you could cut it to where it's the exact width of the card and covers the flap, and just leave it square. But I like to cut it with my paper snips. And this is why I put the adhesive on the flap and not on my designer series paper, because I don't want to be cutting adhesive with my handy little paper snips, and they cut paper so much better than any other scissors I have. And there you go. Isn't that pretty? So there's our first card. Pretty simple. I'm going to use that adorable little bunny that I showed you from Fluffiest Friends. Oh, I don't want to stamp him on that. That's my actual paper. So get a scrap piece of paper to stamp your bunny on. There we go. So to color this little guy, I'm using, first, I'm going to use Sweet Sorbet. This is the dark one. And I'm going to color my cherry on my little cupcake with that. And I just dabbed it because I didn't want to make a mess. I'm using the light Fresh Freesia. Like I said, I picked colors based on what was in the designer series paper, just to make it simple and keep everything coordinating. For the bunny itself, I'm using light Azure Afternoon. to use my coordinating die. So it's this one here. And when I get my dies, I always put them on a magnet sheet. I get these from Stampin' Storage. And then I also get clear envelopes that I can just slot them in so they're easy to see. So I'm going to use my die cut machine and cut this little guy out. And then I end up with this piece. On this piece of basic white cardstock, which measures 3.5 inches by 2.25 inches, I'm going to use, I love this one. It says hip hip hooray. And again, this is a really long stamp. I don't want it that long. And everything will fit diagonally on your square that comes in your kit. But I like to use what I've got, my other ones. So I'm going to mask hooray. And I'm going to use my Azure Afternoon ink and just ink up hip hip. I'm going to stamp it, I guess about there. I'm going to clean my stamp again. This time I am covering up hip hip and I'm going to ink up hooray. Okay, so I was going to do something else, but I decided no, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to take that Today is Your Day stamp we used on the inside of the other card. Make sure it's clean. Yeah, it's clean. So if you want to have your stamps straight, the best thing to do is put it on a grid paper or your glass mat, something where you can line it up and then pick it up. So I'm going to use the Fresh Freesia ink and stamp Today is Your Day under hip hip hooray. And then it's time to put this all together. So I'm going to use my liquid glue again. I have another piece, like this is the back side of the designer series paper that we used a while ago. So and it's the same size. This is 4 inches by 5.25 inches. And it doesn't really matter which way you put it on here, but for some reason I feel like it should be in this direction, but I'm sure it doesn't matter. Okay, so the Azure Afternoon piece of cardstock is 3 3/4 by 2.5. And then this basic white, like I said earlier, is 3.5 by 2.25. So if you wanted to, I think there's room, you could stamp your bunny here. And then put your hip hip hooray up higher and do everything like up in this corner a bunch more, and it would all fit if you didn't want to do the die cutting of the bunny. The bunny goes down here on this corner like so. And then let's use some rhinestones. There we go. So there is the front of our card looking good. Nothing too complicated so far, right? I think that these would be good for any level stamper to make. I think card making is usually pretty simple. It's just learning all the different bits and gathering all the pieces. So if you're new to stamping and you haven't built up your supplies yet, or you're just keeping things limited, instead of getting the Stampin' Blends, I recommend using watercolor pencils. We have 2 assortments, and between the 2, I think you'll have everything you really need. You don't have all of these colors, but you have enough that you can change your color scheme just a little bit and still make a great card. And you can get, so these are Stampin' blends. These are alcohol markers. We also have what we call blender pens, and you can use those to kind of blend your watercolor pencils out a little bit. And I really like those too. But they travel well. They don't take up a lot of room, and they're a lot, they're less expensive. Not that these are crazy expensive. Just when you're starting out on a budget, that's where I started. I started with the watercolor pencils and then slowly built up. Well, when I started, we didn't have alcohol markers. That was not a thing. But we had markers. But just the watercolor pencils, to me, you can control the color a little bit more than you can with a marker. Adding more or less color. And like I said, they're really inexpensive and they don't take up a lot of space. I have space now for extra supplies, but that has not always been the case. Okay, so this is the piece that goes inside the card. Do y'all see what I did? I usually double check this. So I just put this whole card together upside down. So learning opportunity. Let me show you how I'm going to fix that. I'm going to grab my paper trimmer. And I'm going to go ahead and trim off the side just a little bit shorter than where my fold is. And I'm going to go with kind of a different card. So I'm going to, I could just glue this piece on another piece of lemon lime twist card base. But instead, what I'm going to do is trim off a little bit of every edge. Let me turn this around so I can look at my measurements. I'm going to try to get this at 4 1/8 of an inch. It's pretty good. And then I'm going to do 5 3/8 of an inch. So right there. So that's halfway between 5 1/4 and 5 1/2. Then I'm going to take an Azure Afternoon card base. I just happen to have one here. Something else I keep handy, or try to. I need to restock my container, but I try to keep card bases cut and ready to go. So just throw some glue on the back of that. Make sure it's opening the correct way. And there you go. So it's a little different from the card I had in mind, but I think it just adds another level of fun. So that's another thing to remember in stamping. Don't sweat it. Even if you make a mistake, there's almost always a way to correct that mistake without having to start all the way over. I'm a pro. I'm a pro at fixing mistakes on cards. And then the piece that we had for the back of this card originally, I'll save that and I'll use that for another project. For this envelope, I'm going to take a scrap piece of paper. I usually have a scrap laying around. I'll just use this. I don't think it's really going to go through, but just in case. So what I'm going to do is stamp the bunny one more time on the front of this envelope. You could stamp him on the back, on the flap, just whichever place you want him. You could stamp him on both. I've done that before too. This time I'm not going to color the whole bunny. I'm going to do the cupcake. And I'm going to do the bunny's nose. This little underneath spot on his ear, or inside spot on his ear, and then his toes and the bottom of his little paw. I'm just going to leave the bunny white. And there you go. So there we have our second card, mistakes and all. Make sure I put that inside piece in. I did. I was afraid I put it in upside down too. Okay, for this final card, I've started with a basic white piece of cardstock that I cut with the second largest stylish shaped circle die. I'm going to use my block, and I'm going to grab the light the candles and make a wish stamp. And this is small and bendy, so I'm going to bend it and hope it sticks. They stick better when they're newer. This one's been used quite a lot, so the sticky is not quite as sticky as it was on the front. The back still sticks great. Let's see if I can. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and put this over. Yeah, this is going to work great. So every time I've done this before, I still had enough sticky on the front of it that it would stick to the cardstock and long enough for me to get my curve and get it going. So I think that that'll work. I'm going to bring these ends out just a skosh. Just a skosh more. That skosh was too much. So the weensiest of skosh is back. Do y'all use technical terms like skosh and weensy? All right, for this one, I'm using sweet sorbet. We're going to see how this looks. Yay. I did it. Okay. So there's my circle. It's not absolutely perfect because I couldn't get it to stick like I wanted to right on the card, but it's not bad if I do say so myself. So my next step is I'm going to grab just some scraps of cardstock. So I have, okay, so I'm going to use Pretty Peacock. I am completely out of tiny scraps or any scraps of Lost Lagoon. Completely. So I'm having to start over with that one. So a little scrap of Sweet Sorbet, a little scrap of Fresh Freesia, and a little scrap of crushed curry. I need to clean up my desk. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut little bitty pieces, and I'm not even worried about them being straight. I'm going to flatten this one out to match the rest of them a little bit better. There we go. And I think I'm going to skinny this one up because that is okay. I think I'm going to cut my strawberry sorbet a little shorter. I'm going to cut a couple of them a little shorter. So there's that one. Just the length a little bit off of that one. Make that one a little smaller. And then I'm going to go ahead and get a longer piece. I think this is longer. Yeah. It's still so skinny though. There. Now I have a good sized chunk to work with. So you don't want to get too finicky on this. So now I'm going to take that little Starburst we used earlier with that crushed curry ink again. So now I'm going to use a little dab of liquid glue If you have fine tip glue, this might be a good time to pull that out. I'm just using the tiniest of little bitty pieces of glue, or little bitty strips of glue. And I'm going to put my candles under the little starburst. So this is the type of card I usually like to make when I have a lot of little scraps to get rid of. But as you saw this time, I didn't have everything in scraps that I needed. Okay, so I'm going to use that painted texture embossing folder with my stamp cut and emboss machine and emboss this piece of 4" by 5¼ basic white cardstock. And then, again, this is one I don't really think it matters which side you use. So I'm going to put this on my Sweet Sorbet card base that is open the right way. It says 3¼ by 3¼ I believe I forgot to write the dimensions down on this one, and there is a right way up. I don't know if you can see it, but there's words printed on this one. So you want to make sure your words are facing up. Here, I'll check the measurements for you. So yes, the Sweet Sorbet piece is 3½ by 3½, and your DSP is 3¼ by 3¼ And this is from that same Masterfully Made designer series paper. I'm going to center this on the bottom. You can center it in the middle, at the top, put it towards the side, whatever location you like to have it at. But I'm just going to put it on the bottom. I'm going to use my dimensionals again for the circle. And I'm seeing something that I should have looked at before I did this. So my Light the Candles and Make the Wish is a little, it's not centered at the top. So when I was putting my candles down, I probably should have had it turned more like this and put them across this way. But that's okay. It's sassy. We're going to go with that. All right, so I'm using rhinestones again. I'm going to use the smallest ones. I need to refresh the end of my Take Your Pick tool here. And I'm just going to put them in the center of every one of these starburst. There you go. For the inside of this card, I'm going to use a 1/2" by 5¼ strip of the designer series paper that matches what we used on front. And I'm just going to put it on the edge right here. Make sure the words are facing the correct way. If you accidentally put them on upside down, you can just flip it and have this on the inside instead of on the outside. Either way works. There we go. And then for the envelope, I'm going to, again, use designer series paper on the flap because I just can't get enough of this. And if I put it on the flap, nothing is covered up, and it's a fun piece of mail to receive in your mailbox. Make sure the words are facing the right way. I like to use liquid glue because that gives me a minute to scoot it all the way up to the edge, have it flush, and just trim around it. There we go. So there are our 3 cards for this week's video, Light the Candles kit. Thank you for watching today. I hope that these inspired you and showed you that you can do more with a kit than just the cards that come in it. Change the colors, change the layout. Our paper pumpkin kits, which are subscriptions, these come with, I keep forgetting that the camera is not facing down. So these come with alternate, I can't see, so hopefully you can see that, but they come with alternate designs. So you already have ideas, and then you can take those ideas and use them for other cards. I would highly recommend, if you like kits at all, our Paper Pumpkin subscription. It comes in the mail every month. It has everything that you need. You get one block with your first kit. So with these kits, you don't get a block every time. But you do get everything else that you need to make your cards. It's a good way to add to your little Stampin' Block color collection for your inks, and a good way to build up your stamp collection. Plus, it's just a good way to get ideas for new cards. So that's my plug for Paper Pumpkin. It's the subscriptions run through the 10th of each month. So to get the current Paper Pumpkin kit, which is not that one, this was last month's, but to get the current one, you need to subscribe by March 10th. And that just goes for every month. Every month, the deadline is the 10th. If you liked this video, give me a like. I love getting those. Even better, I love it when you comment. And there's links at the top if you would like to go to my blog, join my private Facebook group, sign up for my newsletter, those things. And if you haven't already, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. And I think ding the bell is what people tell me. I'm not sure. All right. Y'all have a good day. Happy stamping.